one in front of me to sit
It's their
down.
deal. It's not quote unquote for school. I mean, it's just no. I don't want to go. So I know it's okay. So I tried to get it, and it shouldn't have. Because you gotta call it. Because the way it is in line, it's like. So if you want to read aloud.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Just a minute, Madam President. Today is Flag Day, and so I would just ask that as we say the pledge today, if we say it like we mean it. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Meinka for awards, recognitions, and celebrations.
Thank you. Lots to share, but I'll be as brief as I can. But I do want to share with you a video from today. We made Channel 12 News, and I want to preface this just to let you know that this isn't always the most positive story, but we do have a staff member in our school district, Mrs. Gibbons out of Gaines, and Mrs. Gibbons has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she got a little bit of a surprise today, so I wanted to show you the news story.
A longtime secretary at Mid-Michigan School is seriously ill, and students wanted to let her know how much they appreciate her. So dozens of them gathered secretly at the school on the last day of classes to surprise her. AZ 12's Randy Conant has the story. Randy?
Carrie Sandra Gibbons has been the secretary at Gaines Elementary in Swartz for 17 years. She beat cancer once and is fighting it again. Those who love her wanted to give her a word of encouragement. Gibbons wasn't expecting this when she rolled into the school cafeteria. Current and former students spread the word on social media that Ms. Gibbons wanted to see them.
I got a Facebook message with like hundreds of people in it, and everyone just said, "Come out, we gotta see her."
Well, this is a wonderful surprise.
I just caught wind of it yesterday, and I thought a few people would stop by, but obviously this is a real tribute.
Many of them brought flowers and signed a large card. Gibbons has been like a mother to many of the kids in the school.
These are my babies, and it's so great to see them.
Gibbons says the surprise visit was special.
And they give me hope.
It has been amazing to see how wonderful she is with all of the children here.
They all gathered for a group photo. All the hugs and warm wishes inspires her to defeat cancer a second time.
And I fought and beat it before, and they were here for me, and I'm going to do it again.
An outpouring of love like that is some of the best medicine. Randy Conant, ABC 12 News.
Very cool.
So,
Receiving an award is Michigan's most...
that's kind of a neat story to share. I think the family nature of our district, pretty cool. Got around to all of the buildings today, the last day of school. It was very exciting. The kids were excited to talk to kindergartners about being first graders, and a lot of them were really excited and giving hugs, and it was just a really neat day. I also wanted to let you know that we did share with the district. I sent you an email today. We just wanted to make sure that everybody has our new logo, and you know, we're proud of our school district, and so the more people that can wear this on their cars, I have one on my car, just to kind of spread the good news about the work that we're doing. And I sent an email out today. We're certainly not a perfect district. We have a lot that we obviously need to work on, and we talk about that, but we are doing a lot of really amazing things for children. So I'm proud to be a part of that team. And I think the other thing that I was really encouraged by was being at Academic Honors Night and graduation, and also the Academy graduation this past week was just really neat to see all of the board and staff come together, and we appreciate all of the time and energy that you put in. I know it was a long week for many of you, for all of you last week, so it's been a good close to the year, and we're really looking forward to the summer and We start planning tomorrow. We have our first professional development day with 60 people in preparation for the fall. So we're not letting the grass grow under our feet, but we're excited. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? Okay, moving on, we have a consent agenda, and I have been asked to move C, depository bank for school funds, down to board action items, no, I'm sorry, under board discussion items, so that will become E.
8E.
And the D for the Michigan High School Athletic Association membership, move that from D down to board action items. It will now become D under that, number 9. Okay? With those changes or any others, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mike?
Support.
Mike and Brian, any comments or questions?
I would just like to comment, Mr. Pike's been here a long time, and he's our only retirement on this agenda, so I would just like to congratulate him.
And I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, Mr. Pike's been with the district quite a long time, and they had a nice celebration for him at the high school yesterday. Kind of celebrated his years of service, and so it's been neat to see the staff kind of congratulate him too.
We already congratulated Connie, but she just wasn't here that night.
Oh, that's right. Connie's here.
I was probably working on IBP.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
So with that, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mrs. Lake, congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
I didn't see you either. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Superintendent report.
Wanted just to update you on a couple items that we've been working on. Yesterday I did a training with Derek over at the high school with the high school English department. We're looking at what's called a consultative support model for students who have disabilities or struggle in school. And traditionally what we've done is we've put them in what's called a co-taught class, where they're in a co-teaching environment and there might be 25 or 30 students that are struggling in school, and we're putting them together. And unfortunately what happens is that those students travel together 6 hours of the day, and by the time the day is at an end, they're tired of being together in many cases. And it's tough on the teachers. It's a difficult way to kind of meet student needs. So what we're looking at doing is taking those same numbers of students, but instead of putting them all in one class, let's say we have 8 classes, spreading them based on needs. So for example, there are a couple, so you probably remember from your own children, there are some combinations of students that are like oil and water. And so we just know that this student with this student isn't going to make a lot of sense. But when they're not around that student, they tend to succeed, they tend to do well. So we did some intentional scheduling that is going to be a little bit of a new approach to how they're delivering their services at the high school in the English department, and we're pretty excited about it. So essentially, the kids are going to there's only going to be maybe 3 or 4 students in a class that are needing some more of these supports, and it's going to become much more manageable for the teachers. And I think the students are going to realize, instead of following a conglomerate of paths. So we're going to let's see how that goes. But I just want to update you that we did a training for them on that model yesterday. We also start our 5 dimensions of teaching and learning training for the administrators tomorrow, and we're going to have 60 people in the band room. All of our administrators who are going to evaluate teachers, but also we've involved more teachers than any school in the state of Michigan in their teacher evaluation process. We have 40 teachers from every single building, from the academy to the high school to every elementary school, middle school, and they're going to be receiving the same training that the administrators are getting. And I believe that that will be very important when it comes to the teachers really understanding what this is about and having people who understand it. So there are 6 days of training throughout the summer. The first 3 will be in June, the last 3 will be in August, and we're starting that tomorrow. So just want to make sure you were aware.
Thank you. I just want to know how many superintendents actually do professional development.
Some do. I would say not many do that.
Congratulations on doing
Okay.
that. I'm sure the staff appreciates
So,
it.
good.
Okay, board subcommittee reports. We had academic achievement and building insight. Can you go first, Stacy?
Sure. Basically, the academic achievement was about the handbooks that we're going to go over tonight, and a lot of the new laws that will change, so that we're going to have to get together and change the handbook again. The tendency behavior will cause us to change some wording later on. But right now, tonight we'll go over all the handbooks.
So to piggyback on that a little bit, we have several laws that were in lame duck that we're learning are going to probably pass in some form or fashion. Those laws are dealing with attendance. They deal with seclusion and restraint, zero tolerance for disciplinary actions, and restorative practices. And all of those laws have a big impact on our handbooks. So for the school handbooks themselves, we're actually going to have to push that off until we can get language into that from those laws. It looks like we'll have that in July. We'll be able to bring you the school handbooks in August, early August, but we needed to bring you the athletic handbooks, as not much has changed in those, but we wanted to bring those to you because those do have to go to print for the fall sports seasons.
Yeah,
So.
and I guess I should say that anything that's highlighted is what has changed. You'll see tonight as we go over that.
And we're bringing the academy handbooks as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
We have
thank
the
you.
attendance
Yeah.
issues that the rest of the schools have.
Sure.
I think that's it.
Any questions for Stacy? Okay, Ryan, you're up.
Building site amend Monday, June 5th. Mr. Chapman directed us through the agenda. Entry doors to Mary Craple were deferred. Middle school, there's one set to be replaced. Elms, estimate cost on Elms is going to be about $11,000. It's the Elms front, the entry doors all measured and waiting for pricing. Anticipate start date is July 1st, 2017. Restrooms, the middle school and Deke. Partitions are ordered for Deke. At the middle school, those stalls, the intent is to paint them. Finish off the new key system for middle school, Deke, Elms, and Moorish. Fountain Lock has the list of doors to start replacing cylinders and hardware as needed. The budget for that is anticipated at $11,000. Regrout the middle school pool, scheduled for June 30th through Johnson Pools. Boiler, Morris Road, the secondary boiler, they'll order the new boiler on July 1st. Sidewalk, Elms High School, Deke, waiting for pricing from the second contractor. Locker rooms in the high school is going to get a facelift, start paint when school is out. Parking lot patching throughout the district, starting as soon as school is out. PAC, the entry sign was completed, if anybody saw that up on the road. The entryway, the solar lights will be installed in the near future. Gaines, the arsenic water system, we've got 2 quotes. That's going to be proceeded when school is out. Anticipated budget cost for the update for the water system is $19,000. They were very limited on people who actually did that kind of work for this water system, for this size of corporate school. The PAC, the band practice field, Mr. Chapman has an offer from Swartz Creek Department of Public Works for these I-beams that they're going to put on the perimeter of the band practice field to keep people somewhat like a fence around the lane, between the lane and the practice field. The labor cost just to install them is going to be about $4,000. Elms Kitchen, getting bids on electrical panel and fire alarm. And then we had some discussion items that were brought up by Mr. Manka. Administration building, the entryway, the flowers and the landscape has been updated. High school weight room discussion, we've got quotes of $13,000 for the rubberized flooring, $50 to $60K for the equipment if we're going to update that. High school entry camera and the buzzer system is completed. The final cost was approximately $6,000. Swartz Creek Academy is going to get paint and updated the entryway. Morris School, library windows leak, that we're going to get a quote and repairs to be made there. And the property adjacent to the middle school was reportedly sold to another party on a land contract. Partnership discussion with the superintendent, Mr. Micah, and Adam Zettel of Swartz Creek City in reference to economic and growth discussion, and that's an ongoing discussion. And that took about an hour. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
The parking lot patch district-wide, is that all the buildings are gonna get a little repair, or do they all need repair?
It's going to go on need. Yeah, they're going to balance that with the need.
We talked about the largest area of need right now is the high school student parking lot, so that's gonna get the biggest,
Okay.
probably patch facelift.
And,
But-
go ahead.
No, but there are needs in many of the parking lots for patching, so, some of them have been recently done, but the high school is the biggest.
Okay. The PAC sign, they were taking care of the solar lights this afternoon, so that's,
Oh, are they?
that's good.
Okay. I just pulled in, I didn't see them.
Oh. They're
They're
probably
not
not
on
gonna
yet.
come on yet.
Well, I mean, I didn't see the fixture.
It's just a little, it's a solar light.
Okay, well, I was looking at it and I was thinking,
I'm off into that one.
Forget it.
You'll see them on the way.
We'll cover good. I hope they're there.
Let's all go that way.
I hope somebody hasn't walked away with them yet.
The Elms Road kitchen bid, I know we're gonna talk about that later, but you've got and fire alarm. So is the fire alarm part of the kitchen work that comes out of that pot of
Yes.
money?
Yes.
Okay, so are there bids included for that, or how does that work?
Yes, so you're gonna have a package that we talked about last time that has all of that included when we get to the kitchen.
Okay.
And that is all of that's all paid for out of the cafeteria funds. We talked about it building in site just, because it was construction related, so.
Okay.
Yep.
The academy, you've got paint and update entryway. Are we also painting that outside wall, or?
Yeah, no, you talked about
That's,
Yeah, so when you go to the academy and you go to the back, if you'll notice that the brick you can see where the mortar's been
Right.
patched.
Yeah.
What we wanna do is just put a fresh coat of red paint there, and put our logo there, and so it just kinda makes it, a presentable entrance.
Yeah.
And at a pretty low cost for, just covering up the mortar that looks patched.
So the paint then is outside?
yes.
Correct.
Okay. And one more question. I hate to just keep bringing this up, but you've got restrooms on here, and you, once again, have left out Mary Crapo.
We discussed that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we-
we're
we-
still working on that, but,
We did discuss Mary Crapo bathrooms, and so one of the challenges that we have is in that building with its age, every time we get into cast iron plumbing, you end up with a significant cost. And so one of the conversations we had was, if we were to move number one, are we in compliance as far as do we have a stall that meets our ADA requirements?
right.
And we do have that. The other two stalls that are next to it are smaller. And so for somebody who might be my size or larger, it's difficult sometimes to, so that's why the ADA compliant stall is sufficient. The problem is if we take out a divider, we have to do something with the plumbing for that particular toilet. And then we also have to manage we have to have a certain number of toilets for the capacity of the building and all of those things. So it doesn't look like it's very feasible to do much with that bathroom. Based on all of those factors, it would require us to almost redo the bathroom, add new toilets and new plumbing, and so the cost of it would be pretty significant, just because of the nature of the age of the building. It costs a lot.
Okay, so our ADA bathroom, where is that located?
So my understanding that we talked about at the meeting, my understanding is it's in there.
Yeah, we have a handicap stall.
Yeah.
There's one there.
It's in the same bathroom?
Yes,
It
it's
is.
available.
Okay.
So there's two
Yeah.
that are smaller, and then there's one that's larger.
Right.
Okay.
It's just the two that are smaller,
And the students have accessibility to that? Okay.
they do, yep, absolutely.
I had one question, the very last one, your discussion with Adam Zettel in the city, what does that
Yeah,
entail?
I can talk about that. So we talked a little bit about this property back here, not seriously, just kind of in concept. And we had talked about the fact that there are grant funds out there, particularly through the Genesee County Parks and Rec Board and also the State DNR Board, on something we could do with that. As it turns out, there was a land contract that occurred in the middle of us having those conversations, so that stalled out very quickly. Not to mention the cost was more than what we would want to entertain anyway. But we had a conversation about that. He shared just some thoughts and ideas about the different things they're doing and that they're trying to do. And the city and the townships that are in our school district and the school district are intricately connected. We are our separate own entity. They are their separate own entity, but they are trying to do things that will help bring families to Swartz Creek. Whether we're talking about Gaines Township or or we're talking about the city or any of the townships in the surrounding area, we have to try and develop some of those relationships. So he was sharing some ideas. He had talked a little bit about some of the things that they had looked at the property up by the 69 Expressway. Talked a little bit about the owner and the history there, the racetrack. Sorry. So I would not to. I don't want to overstate this. There was nothing significant that came out of that other than just kind of entry conversations about things we can do. We talked about some things that we could do with students coming over to the senior center, helping to volunteer there a little bit. We just are trying to do some more partnership with our local municipalities, because as our school district improves, and we are, people will want to come to Swartz Creek, and that will be good for the city and the surrounding areas. The same is true for them and us, so our fates are somewhat intertwined. So that was kind of our conversation.
Any other questions? Okay, going on to informational items number 7. You have in your packet the questions that were asked and answered from our last meeting. One related to summer activities at Deep and future kitchen upgrades, possibly where those would be located, and it might be at Deep. Any questions on those? We did not have any non-certified staff. All right. Going on, board discussion items, we have handbooks.
So this is I'm going to let Mr. Heatherton do this, but this obviously is our discussion. We're not asking you to vote on these today. We're presenting the changes to you, and we tried to make this as simple as possible by giving you a 1-page of just the highlighted changes, and then we will let them present. So Mr. Heatherton.
Thank you. As Mr. Micah said, we are only bringing the middle school athletics, high school athletics, and the academy and adult ed to you today, waiting for the law changes on the rest. So we have Ms. Calvo, Ms. Titsworth, and Mr. Thompson. Who would like to go first? Ms. Calvo, come on up. And so you should have a grid in your packets that show the differences between any major changes from last year's handbook to this year's handbook.
Ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Basically, when you keep going through these handbooks year in and year out, you still catch some things, and there was some rewording, but there is grammar and whatnot that have been changed. I did share in my committee meeting that I had an English lesson that athletic director or principal, if you put Swartz Creek High School in front of it, it's capitalized, but if you're just talking in general, it's not. So I fixed those things after talking to one of our English teachers. Basically, on pages 3 and 4, we have our club sports are listed, and they're just the asterisk below, and it's on the top of page 4. And there will be no JV Palms this year. We just have a lack of numbers, and what we have added is archery, and then we have moved boys and girls varsity lacrosse with a list of the sports on page 3, and those are in blue. If you have colored copies, yeah, they're blue. Then from there, we go to page 5. As you can see, the top of page 5, we had 8 metro schools listed. Now there's 9 with the addition of Owasso for next year. Then on pages 7 through 9. Basically, what we did is that there was something sent from the MASSP, and our handbook had the gist of what they were talking about, but then we went even a step further with their examples and gave general descriptions and turned them into more specific descriptions when we're talking about violations concerning drugs and alcohol. So you're going to see everything that we had before, but we it's just much more specific than what we had.
This question is for Carrie, our druggist. Are there enhancing drugs that would affect different people in different ways? So maybe it wouldn't be listed, but yet it could affect a student in that way?
I'm sure depending on your metabolism, there could be different. But I'm not sure if your question is, does it vary by drug, or does it vary by person? So if somebody has a higher metabolism,
well, I guess my question is here because we have this banned substance, and maybe we don't have it listed as a banned substance, but yet it affects this student in a way that is the same way as a banned substance affects this student. So do we have some control over maybe because it's not listed, or no?
I can answer that, Lorraine. Let me see what page it is. One of the things that I did, because that's a very good question, and one of the things that I did, I kind of thought the same thing, and through the Michigan High School Athletic Association, they also have us refer to the NCAA, and so in the NCAA, they continue updating that list all the time. So if you, let me see what page it is, but, so I do have that on page, where is it, 6, if somebody find it? Because it's after the board policy, because we talk, oh, here it is, on 13, it's on, page 6, number 13, Lorraine.
Okay.
And it talks about the banned substances, and then that was one of the things, due to continued additions and updates, please refer to, and it's all there because they do continually update that NCAA.
So to your point, Sue, as people create new drugs,
yes,
new banned substances, the
yes.
state can't keep up with them too. They just basically say anything that looks like this. And so as it, and then the NCAA adds it, then we add it as well.
They do, yeah. And so what's happening is that we just have them, we have that there that they can refer to that.
Okay.
So.
And I'm assuming that you stay on top of that list as well.
Yeah, like for example, and I can give you an example. We had an athlete that, you know, those caffeine, what is that, those energy drinks. Well, we had a young man that, he took, it was the 5-hour study, but it was a different one. It was a bottle. Well, anyway, long story short, it was like an equivalent of like 40 cups of coffee. So then as we found out, we dealt with it, and then the coach had brought me, you know, what they found. I contacted the MHSAA, I got on, I checked these things out, and none of this was on the banned substance. However, and we did have the student go, his father took him, you know, to emergency and whatnot, and the physician, like, are you kidding me? It's like an equivalent to 40 cups of coffee. So we do, you know, stay up on everything. So.
Because some school district just had a student die because of that. I can't remember where it is. Do you remember?
I saw it, but I don't remember either.
What was it that they
started out with, I think, Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew at home. They stopped and got a latte or something
at McDonald's,
and then had the energy drink at school.
And then that energy drink.
I don't remember what district though, do you? Anyway, that student died.
Yeah. And ours could have, you know, and unfortunately he was lucky enough, and we handled it, and you know, we rushed him to emergency and whatnot. This was probably about 4 or 5 years ago that it happened. So.
Thanks, Carrie. Terry, I didn't mean to put you on the
Oh,
spot.
no, that's okay. I wasn't sure if I understood your question, but that's okay.
Okay, and then, page 11, I basically, when I looked at this, I saw that, on page 10, there was, for the principal, it's a 24-hour, that a student athlete, if they're dismissed from a team, that they have 24 hours to put in writing that they would like to meet with the principal. So then what I did, just to make it consistent with page 10, I changed it on page 11 when young men or young ladies dismissed from a team for attendance. That they. And then finally, the varsity jackets. This has probably been in this handbook for a long, long time, and our school colors are red and white. But these parents that are spending money on these varsity jackets, I mean, they're $300-400 jackets, and if they want to get tan sleeves, they can get tan sleeves. So, you know, because we've had a couple that have purchased their jackets, they're purchasing it on their own, and that is just something new that's available to. I mean, if a parent goes in for Christmas, they get their child that tan varsity jacket, I'm not going to tell that kid they can't wear it. It just works pretty good, so.
Well, if they have an old varsity jacket, that leather turns tan anyway.
It doesn't.
It's vintage. My husband's is tan.
Any other questions for Ms. Calvo?
I do. Why do we limit a student to 24 hours to discuss something with an administrator?
This was something that I think it was 3 or 4 years ago that was changed by the superintendent and principal. That was on page 10 that was approved, and they just want, the decision isn't made in 24 hours, it's just they are writing to the principal that they would like to meet with a principal. So they're shooting an email stating that they want to meet. So, and that was something that was changed, I believe it was 3, it might have been 4 years ago, on page 10.
Well, hypothetically, if I get let go on a Friday night, how do I contact the principal in 24 hours?
I mean, they shoot an email, and it's Monday, I mean, that can be changed. This was just something that it was changed 3 or 4 years ago by the principal and superintendent, so.
Yeah, I think we need to change that, because what if a kid's embarrassed and don't go home and tell their parents for 24 hours? I mean, I don't understand why there's a time limit.
There was a time limit before, she just changed it.
Right, I'm saying, I don't understand why there was one before.
You guys voted on it before, why did you vote on it before to change it?
I didn't see it.
It's just to appeal, it's just that they're just saying, we want to appeal, and then.
Right, but if if your kid don't tell you in 24 hours, after 24 hours, you can't appeal.
Ken, on that though, like anytime any of our kids would ever be removed from any teams, it
We call home
be
and
parent
they'll
contact.
know.
There's
like,
parent
at that time.
contact.
So it wouldn't be an expectation for the kid to go home and tell their parent. We
call.
ourselves or Sue would be calling to let that parent know because of disciplinary actions or whatever that.
And then,
you know, that had
and if they want to further appeal it, then they
Then they
have.
have the 24 hours.
And then basically that's just an email that they would like to.
But that's not what this says. It says athletes dismissal from their team as a result of unexcused absences may request a review of their dismissal. This is talking about absences, not
Right,
whether they've been
but
kicked
still
off
at
the team.
that point, we would still, if we were removing a child from a team, we would be calling home.
Yeah, we always
That
do.
would never be just left up to a kid to go home and say, hey, I got kicked off the team.
Just like when we suspend a kid from school,
Yep.
the same thing, we contact the
So
parent.
this is different than getting cut from it.
And again, this.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's not getting, it's different than getting cut from.
This isn't saying you're doing it though.
That could be something we could look at, is to put in there that we would be, they would be contacted, but you're still gonna have
But
that.
this isn't saying you're the one removing them from the team.
A coach cannot remove a kid from a team unless they talk to Sue and I, though. That's obviously a conversation that they're gonna have with Sue and I also.
Is this this is under the attendance policy, do we have this same statement in another spot here in the handbook?
Yeah, that's why I was making it, I was being more consistent. It was on page 10, it talked about appeals and due process. That Swartz Creek student athletes may appeal athletic consequences related to violation of school rules to the principal in writing within 24 hours of the suspension. The principal decision will be final. So they just are in writing requesting an appeal.
Okay, so the attendance,
I could leave it how we had it too. I mean,
Well,
I
they're-
just was trying to be more consistent with the page 10 is what I was
No,
doing.
but they're apples and oranges. One talk, on 11, you're talking about attendance. On this one says consequences related to a violation of school rules. So that could be that you got to fight.
Right, but you could be dismissed from a team too, violating school rules. You know, it just depends on what offense and what violation.
What I'm
I
reading.
can leave it how I had
Well,
it, Ken.
I
It's
don't
not
care.
a-
What I'm reading
yeah.
on page 11 though is basic. What I'm reading there is that the coaches had enough of your absenteeism and they're kicking you off the team.
Well, there it is right there. There's first offense, second offense, third offense, and that's what happens. And so dismissal from the team, we're still giving them the opportunity if they want to appeal that dismissal. We're giving them that opportunity even though it states in these rules that this is what's gonna happen. It's a progressive, first offense.
I agree, but what's on 10 and what's on 11 are apples and oranges.
I can leave,
One is-
I can leave 11 how
Well,
it is, that you guys have approved in the past. We don't have to change it at all. I do not have a problem with that. Whatever you wanna do there.
Ken, is your concern that it's not enough time, or?
I don't think it's enough time.
So is
Hypo-
2 business days? I mean, that's-
Hypothetically,
so
if
to
you
your
call,
point-
did you do due diligence? If you call and leave mom and dad a message, and then when they call you back, you don't answer? I mean, 24 hours is not, let me give you 24 hours to file a grievance.
Would it be?
We'd all lose our
What are you
mind.
saying in the 24 hours if the principal doesn't call the parents back?
Well, let's say that they do what they're supposed to do. At 3:30 in the afternoon, they call and let them know little Billy got booted off the team. Parents get the message at 6 o'clock on Friday night. How do I
As
get a
long
hold
as
of
I
you?
think they email.
Yeah, they
then
just email. It's just a.
As long as it's in an email,
Yeah.
I think
But
it's
to the
fine.
point, if we did 2 business days,
Well,
then
yeah.
the next week, that would
Would
give
be
them
Monday.
Right,
Monday and
yeah.
Tuesday.
And I think that's what we
I don't
had
know
there. I
why-
mean, I can leave it exactly how it was. I was just, maybe you start doing these handbooks and you start reading into all this stuff and I thought, oh, this isn't consistent, but I can leave it exactly how it was approved before.
I guess I'll let it die here. So if someone had a complaint, is 24 hours reasonable?
I think it is.
It is?
And I think it depends
If
on
you have what if they don't have access to you?
what do you mean?
What if they don't have access to you
All
to
you gotta do is
complain?
send an
How are they
email,
not
right?
gonna have access?
What if they
Email,
don't have
phone
a
call?
call, they don't have a complaint?
Well,
They
we
can
have
call and
phones.
voicemail. I think 24 hours is plenty
I
of
think
time.
it's plenty. And then I also think that it depends on the principal too, because truly, anytime I've emailed Mr. Klein, he emails me right back. So it depends on it depends on the principal itself too, so. I mean, I've never waited more
I mean,
than
as a coach,
an
I wanna
hour
get this
even.
straightened
He's
up
very
as soon
good
as
about that,
possible.
so.
I don't wanna wait 3-4 days to
No.
decide if they're gonna, is a kid on the team or is he off the team?
Yeah, I mean, they know their consequences.
So what if it's not 24 hours? What if it's
Well,
one
remember that
school day? Or one,
We
do we
can
change it
leave
to
it-
one
Well,
school day?
Then we
nope,
can
we'll
leave,
leave that one
we
right
can
there.
leave page 11 how it was
Remember
before.
consequences.
I have no problem with that. I was
think
just
we're
trying to be
firm
consistent
believing
with page 10, so.
Okay.
Love consequences
And I
here,
can,
a couple more things.
you want
on
me
the
to just
agenda.
leave it? I can leave it, that's not a problem.
Let's leave it. Plenty of time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right, I think you'll have a sheet in front of you with the middle school changes. The top 3 are very similar to what Sue had in the high school athletic handbook. So on page 3, we at one point we've tried our hardest to run a girls club soccer team, and it just is not possible. With AYSO and MHSA rules and regulations, and then just numbers, we've tried and we ended up playing like the same parochial schools and home schools, which the kids were then playing high school kids, and it just wasn't working out. So we will not be doing that, but we have added archery this year, and we actually had our first season this year, which was phenomenal. The kids loved it, so we plan on continuing on with that. That was on page 3. On page 5, we also at the middle school level have joined in, or OWASO has been voted into our program. They used to just compete against us in wrestling and in swimming. They now will compete against us for all of our sports. We have a little bit different league. Some people are confused at the middle school level where we belong to the Greater Flint Middle School League, which is not the same as what the high school is. So we have a lot of the old Big 9 teams that are in. We have a lot of the old Big 9 teams that are also in with us. So that's the change for our league membership. Same thing under Athletic Code of Conduct for Student Athletes. I have the same changes that Sue had in her high school handbook, and that just basically in our past handbook we had very general descriptions about what was illegal and what was legal, and now we've just done an in-depth description of the violations concerning drugs, and it now includes the illegal drugs, medical marijuana, anabolic steroids, prescription drugs, inhalants, lookalike drugs, and drug paraphernalia. They did a very good job coming from the MASSP, giving us something to help us put that into our handbooks, to try to get rid of all of those little loopholes that people try to find. Our big change, and I am just super excited to have our whole entire school on one program instead of running 2 different grading policies throughout the athletic program for eligibility. Next year our building will be 6 through 8 on standards-based grading. So what has been going on with our 6th and 7th graders for the last 2 years will now be going on in our building 6th through 8th grade. This will make it much, much easier to deal with eligibility, and there's not this line of, okay, I've got one kid that's in 6th grade and they have these set of standards, but then I have an 8th grader that's still on an old 2.0 eligibility requirement, so that should clear up a lot of confusion with our parents, and we're all on that same page. So just so you guys are aware, in order for a student to become ineligible at the middle school level for athletics, they will be checked every single week. They will be earning 2 or more level 1 scores in 2 or more classes that will deem them ineligible. Eligibility checks will be done weekly. We were doing them bi-weekly. We're going to back to be doing them weekly, just because it makes a lot more sense because our seasons are so much shorter. I don't want kids sitting. I want to dangle that carrot. They want to get back out there, and that's what hooks the kids to keep them going and keeping their grades up. So the other thing that we're adding is the addition of the citizenship or the CREEP code eligibility. If the students are earning any level 1 scores, they will be deemed ineligible, and then earning 2 or more level 2 scores in 2 or more classes, they will be deemed ineligible. And it's just for that following week. Those are basically the biggest changes that we have.
Any questions? I have a question.
Sure.
You have bowling listed as a club sport, and I thought...
It is a club sport at the middle school level. It's not run through the school.
Okay. But it is a feeder program, correct?
But it is not. It is run by the bowling league. Like, we have nothing to do with it. Yep. They do a phenomenal job. It's great that they just do an awesome, awesome job. We had, I think, 5 teams, I think, at the middle school level competing this year. It's great. It's a great program. But yes, it does. That's what the Bowling Association wanted, was to be a feeder program. So it's kind of like our youth sports, and we have like our youth football program and cheerleading and pom programs that we have here in Creek.
So that's 6th through 8th grade?
6th through 8th grade, yes. And that's a no-cut sport, so everyone is able to get out there, and it's a great beginner sport for all kids. It's just something that they can get involved in.
So who was our archery coach?
Myself and Mary Rock this year were the archery coaches. We went down. I was trained in the past when I was teaching PE at Graham Blank. I had been trained a long, long time ago. So myself and Mary Rock went down last summer and were trained to be archery coaches again. She went through the first training with me a long time ago, so we just had a refresher course.
Okay, who coaches that at the high school?
Dave Samanson.
Dave Samanson.
Any other questions?
Dave is the one that brought archery to us. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Thompson, Academy in Adult Education.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'll go through the Academy first. This year, under enrollment on page 65, we are taking off Ms. Vanderlip's phone number. And there will be an orientation process for every student to go through. Under academics, the days of the week will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so we're removing the schedule A and B on that. Earning credit, instead of trimesters, it will be 2 semesters made up of 18 weeks. On page 66, the diploma. Students can only earn a Swartz Creek Academy diploma. High school diploma will no longer be issued. Retake exam. Student will be required to sign up to complete a retake and to take exams. Capstone project. We'll change the name to Senior Exit Presentation, and then note all graduates Swartz Creek Academy must complete a Senior Exit Presentation. Any Swartz Creek Academy student obtaining a GED must complete a Senior Exit Presentation. The EDP, all students will complete the EDP. Honor Roll, we're removing that section. We will no longer have an honor roll. Textbooks, we're removing that. We no longer will issue textbooks. Compliance expectation on page 69. Students are required by the seat time waiver law to be compliant with their teacher mentor on a weekly basis. Students are expected to utilize their data portfolio. Also on page 69 is a 10-day letter. In addition, a parent, guardian, student must meet with the Director of Students and Community Development and Dean of Students before re-enrolling. On page 70, weekly schedule expectation. We will no longer have students attending on the Fridays. We will remove, since all students receive lunch regardless of their arrival time, we're removing that verbiage. On tardies, we remove that. We will no longer issue any tardy slips. Unexcused and excused absences, we remove that. And then to excuse an absence, we will remove that. On page 71, the wireless communication, we're putting in verbiage about Swartz Creek Community Schools utilizes an open domain wireless system. Opportunities, we will put in Genesee Career Institute. Work permits, a work permit can be revoked depending on the discretion for reasons such as failing grades, non-attendance behavior. Page 73, leaving the building at no time during school hours are Swartz Academy students to go to another school without permission, i.e. middle school or high school. Transportation, students may lose bus privileges at the discretion of the principal or director if bus expectations and protocols are not met. And then parking area and regulations, Swartz Creek Academy students may not utilize the high school or middle school to park in those lots. And then we have a signature page. So that is my presentation on that. Any questions?
This is actually a question for Ben. Since we have students driving over to the academy, do they have to pay for a parking pass?
We have not had that conversation, and currently they do not have to pay for a parking permit, I believe.
Correct.
Is that correct? So that's a good point. But I would think that, I guess, logic would prevail to say that it should probably be the similar, for both schools.
Correct.
So, yeah.
We would defer to that.
Okay. So we'll get together and talk about that before we bring these up next.
Okay.
Any other questions for Richard? Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Got adult ed.
So moving on to our amazing adult ed.
How could I forget?
The Educational Opportunity Career Pathway, we are utilizing the EDP through the GISD for career education. We're also working with the federal government on the WIA. Admissions requirements, it is now 18 years of age as opposed to 20. They just changed that law for adult ed. It used to be 20, it is now 18. And the same thing then with the assessment and then attendance policy. The students are required to keep and record their book work hours because we have so many hours we have to prove to the federal government before they can take a test. So that is the brief changes in adult ed.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, going on to B.
I have one question here, Carrie.
Go ahead.
I'm probably gonna have a whole bunch more after I get time to read this, but in the, I think it's in both athletic handbooks. To what degree, if a parent wants to remove their kid from the bus, in here, I think it's something that we put something in writing that we really can't enforce. says that parents, for a child to be removed from the bus, the form has to be signed by the athletic director or the building principal for extenuating circumstances. So I think all know at this table that if someone wants their kid, you really can't deny it their child.
Well, I grab a stack of those from, because McKenna's on it, I grab a stack from the middle school at the beginning of the year. And then if she doesn't want to ride the bus back to the school, then I simply just fill it out, she takes it to school, and Miss T just approves it, it's easy as can be. But really by them, I mean, really, if a child, like I've been at the things before I knew all that, and I want to take her, you can't, because her safety protocol, they want you to fill that out. It's so easy to fill it out.
What my coaches do is they'll call me on the phone, or we have them, they keep extras in their bags, and if there's an emergency, they have so the parent can sign it, and that way it's there. And that's what we do, and it really works. I mean, you know, yes, if a parent wants to take their son or daughter, they absolutely can. However, there is protocol, and we want to know where the kids are, who we're releasing these kids to, so we're very careful about who we are releasing these athletes to.
I just make sure that I have all my coaches call me if something comes up. I mean, sometimes, you know, a step parent or someone else has to pick up just because they can't get back to the school, or maybe they don't live in the district, whatever it may be. So the coaches call me, and I just have them put it in writing, so they all have a little clipboard that they have the parent write, I'm taking my child home tonight, and they sign it, and then I have my coaches initial that they had a phone conversation with me, just so we have documentation that we knew that child was going home with.
I understand all that.
And if a coach forgets a form, then if there's a line sheet or whatever, they date it, and then they get it back to us. So.
I think you need to reword that, though. It says the athletic director or building principal may approve athletes going with parents in extenuating circumstances. I don't know when there'd be a time that you may not. You can't legally do it.
Well, for example, we have a to and from, and I had this happen where for the majority, our kids ride on the bus to the event. We had a young lady that circled both, and then she told me, so I called Mom, and Mom said, no, absolutely not. Is she to go with, you know, driving her own vehicle? She will be riding home with me, and she wanted to go with a friend, whatever. But I think that we do both, that we do a great job contacting these parents, and we want to make sure that our kids are safe. We want to make sure that
I haven't had a single issue. We talk about it at all of our parent meetings. We make sure that we know, you know,
it's working
online. My parents know to just email them to me. They email them to me, so they don't even, you know, because unfortunately my middle schoolers, they tend to lose things. So you know, getting out of the car, just walking into my office, it disappears. So I haven't had any issues.
And the other thing too that we tell our coaches is that when the parent is there, make sure that they're handing you the form, that you know that that's who's picking up their child, that they're not going home with a boyfriend, they're not going home with a girlfriend. And so we're very careful, and we just want to make sure that our kids are safe and they are going home.
And that's fine, but what I'm saying to you is your wording is incorrect. It says you may. I'd like to know how you're going to tell someone they're not. If we're going to sit here and debate this, let's debate it, because the wording says you may. Tell me when you would tell them they can't. You can't take your kid today, they're going to ride the bus home.
So maybe a better wording would be that if parents seeking to do that, they need to follow this process of submitting it.
Here's what I'm saying to you is when you read that, you're reading it as, well, I may not even want to ask because they may tell me no. They can't tell you no. And so, you know, again, if we're going to, the wording in that should be changed. Okay. I think it should be that, you know, if you request or whatever, and I'm sure everything is going fine, but the wording in it is very misleading because it says you may. Well, when would you not? If someone wants their kid, you can't deny their child.
The only time I could maybe think of something that I wouldn't necessarily 100%, I'd want to have a lot of conversation with the parent is the two events. I really don't want to get into the business of having parents pick up kids and then take them to events because there's a lot of stuff that can happen, like if, unfortunately, there's just people out there that don't do the smartest things with their kids, and then that becomes another worry of my coach to make sure that they get to the event on time. Now, we do have extenuating circumstances, say they have a doctor's appointment, but they all clear it through me, and that's something obviously
My opinion is they should ride the bus to and from.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in
I don't
that.
have a problem
But what I'm
changing
getting
that.
at is the language in there makes it sound like but you may not let them roll home with their mom and dad, and I don't think you'll ever have that option. So I think the language in that should be changed.
We can get together and work on a
Okay.
language
All right.
on that.
Anything else with the?
Thank you, sir. Thanks very much. Okay, going on to the budget amendment.
Okay, in front of you is a one-page document here. This is preliminary. You'll notice that there is a general fund budget. We have a final amended budget, and I want to give you a couple pieces of information. The first thing I want to do is I want to just share with you that for the first time in a long time, the governor, well, for the first time in the last 20-some years, the governor was actually kept out of budget conversations. So, as you know, what happens is the governor releases an executive budget, the House and the Senate release their versions, and then they come together to come up with a final budget. That is almost always done by June 1. June 1 is come and gone, and we're not sure they're going to have one for us by July 1. However, our fiscal year starts in July 1, and we need to have a budget to operate on. So that's why this meeting we're giving you a preliminary look at this. On June 28th, we're going to do our Truth in Taxation presentation, and we're also going to be providing you with this budget in a final format for you to approve, because we have to have an operating budget, even though the state has given us numbers that are non-existent. So we've got little pieces of information. One thing that I would like to share with you, this is a document, and I apologize for the size of the writing. This comes out of, this is an analysis that was done by MASA and MASB, and what they've done is they've taken the best projections from the current information we have on what the increases to the foundation allowance would be, and also, as you know, as I presented to you a few board meetings ago, the discussion about at-risk funding, the potential for funding that comes through title monies and some of those others. However, from the state allocated funds, if you look at Swartz Creek, we're down near the bottom third of the page. Right now, according to the state projections, it looks like we would see an $810,000 increase to our funding, to our revenue. Okay, and so you'll see that on the far right side. So that's a combination, or I would say an in total amount, as you consider the at-risk funding increases that have been proposed, as well as the per pupil foundation allowance increases that have been proposed. So you'll see that 810 on the far right, and then this is actually a 20-some page document because it has all the school districts in Michigan on it. So I just printed out our page, but it will give you some insight into what the other districts in Genesee County are looking at. So with that in mind, you'll see that the projected budget for 17-18, if you look at the revenues, where it says subtotal of revenues, you'll see that $37,478,000 number, which represents a $683,000 increase. So what we are doing, and I told you this before, I tend to be more conservative, especially in the initial budget. We're not going to count on getting all of that money because we don't have anything that's a for sure thing. So for right now, we're going to budget at a lower amount. Feel pretty comfortable with that. And that there is showing you an example of that. So, John, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
No, that consistent with the budget that you're in front of you for the projected original, as Superintendent Micah stated, that we have an increase for foundation allowance, and we have some of the at-risk built in, but again, we won't know those until it's actually adopted from the statewide, from the state perspective. I also have factored into our this projected original about a 10 students overall reduction in their blended count. Again, that will be, and that's part of the amendment process too in the fall when we will have our fall counts and we'll have our blended counts calculated. And that when we do the first amendment, as we get into the school year, we'll have our counts and we'll have our the actual adopted budget from the state. Just a couple other things that are built into the projected original. I look at basically all the staff, teaching staff, and paras, secretaries, administrators, and basically any contract language that applies to individuals that apply their, whether it be steps, what have you, for the teachers and in their individual contracts. I have the health insurance for. We're regulated by Public Act 152, where we districts are allowed to increase what they can pay towards a family or two-person or single insurance, and that's about a 3.3% increase, and that was about, so that's factored into this original projected for 17-18. And the other thing that's in there as well, you look at the transportation line. We have a purchase of 2 buses that will be delivered here in hopefully July or early August. So that's about $179,000 piece of additional expenditures that is factored into this budget as well. So just moving one column to the left, the final amended. It is a work in process. I'm working basically every week looking after payrolls, after we're paying bills, looking at utilities, looking at supplies, tightening up the line item budgets, and trying to, as you can see, it's improving from the amended mid-year budget of a projected $250,000. It's adjusted down to $221. I'm hoping that we'll continue to improve that and probably finalize. There will be some changes to that column before we present then on the 28th. And depending on the state, if they do adopt a budget by the 28th, then we'll try to build those actual foundation allowances and at risk and what have you into the original 17-18 budget.
Is there any more revenue coming in, or are you looking at expenditures to be short?
Yeah, it's mainly the expenditure side. If we have supply items that we've established that they're not fully been utilized, I'm bringing basically tightening them up.
In worst case scenario, if we do that 221, that'll still leave us at over 5%?
Yes. And actually, the percentage, that's one thing I want to note. The percentage is stated here. The state realizes that with that their oversight, that 5% that they're calculated is based on what they look at as total revenue minus essentially the federal revenue line. We got about 1.7, almost 1.8 million in there. So if you took that out of the denominator of the factor, so if you took our fund balance divided by the total of $37.5 million, that's where I come up with the 5.9 at the end of this year, 5.3 at next year. But if you took that 1.7 out of the denominator, that would improve our percentage even more. But so that's when the state, if they were ever going to look at, that's how they calculate their percentage. This is, so really we're in a little bit better shape than it's presented here from a state perspective.
Any other questions?
We'll be bringing you an updated budget on June 28th for adoption, and we will also be bringing you at that time, we will have our Truth and Taxation hearing. I believe that's slated for 6:15, is that right, Mr. Frechette?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
6:15 on the 28th, so that'll be an open meeting for anybody that would like to attend. I wanted to bring to your attention the fact that I've mentioned this in the past. One of the things that I think we've struggled with as a district is knowing where we need to invest and spend our money as it pertains to our facilities. And a couple other things that have kind of come from that. We need to have a third party provide us with some information about our facilities. We have not ever gone through a full facility study A facility study is extremely detailed. It's done by an architecture firm, typically, who pulls together lighting contractors, mechanical contractors, people that are beyond the capacity of our school district personnel to do. And what they do is it's about a 600-hour project that they would complete over the summer. And what that includes is it includes suggestions about how we can maximize the use of our facilities, how we're currently utilizing facilities. They work with schools. These firms work with schools. They come out, they go in, and they will, for example, say, room 218 at the middle school is going to need their ceiling tiles replaced within the next couple years. That's the level of specificity that we're going to get. So you go all the way down to the minute, all the way up to the higher level things to say, hey, these are your needs. One big example is energy efficiency. What would it cost to update our lights to LED lights? How much money would it save us in the long run? How would that impact our bottom line? All of those things, whether we are able to afford to do those things or not, we would at least have objective information to start making decisions. A couple of things we've talked about is classroom maps, being able to have up-to-date drawings of our classrooms, where the rooms are, where the room numbers are, and that's a school safety issue as well, being able to make sure law enforcement and everybody else has accurate, up-to-date drawings. We've talked in the past about entryways and things like that and suggestions for how we could do things at low cost, and maybe some that are even higher cost, but the reality is the school district, I think, both everybody that is here at this table, myself included, and I think even our own personnel, we don't have the capacity or expertise to be saying, well, Ben Micah thinks we need to replace the roof at the high school. Well, I'm not really qualified to make that determination, so we need to be able to operate with objective data. So this is an intensive study, and it is costly. But I do believe that this is necessary in order for us to truly have information that we can use moving forward. And typically districts do this about once every 8 to 10 years because of the fact that it'll give us abilities to make some decisions, and whether or not we needed to go to our community for money, or whether or not we can't or won't do that, or there won't be support for that, we at least know what our prioritized list of options would be. So that study is something that would need to be, it's a service. It would be starting in the summertime, and the cost to do a facility study is about $45,000. And that includes all of the prints, the renderings, that includes all of the mechanical contractors, all of the contractors to provide us with a detailed report. They would also be coming, the architects themselves would be coming to a board meeting, and we would probably have to schedule a special board meeting because it would be an extensive report where we could do that however you chose. We could do that with the Building and Site Committee. We could also have that as just a whole board meeting that we schedule as a special meeting. But the reality is that this is the type of work that I believe needs to be done before we're ready to make objective decisions, because we just don't have the expertise, I don't believe, to be able to do that unless it's just simply things that are obvious. We have stains in carpets, we need to replace those, but there are things that we could possibly be capturing money or saving money if we were to use spaces differently, and many times these studies, they pay for themselves. So I wanted to just throw that out there to you to see if you had questions, concerns, maybe generate a dialogue, and if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing. The report is extensive. I know that it would be beyond something that you'd want to read, from cover to cover, but it is extremely helpful, especially when you start talking about how are we going to allocate funds, and should we be allocating funds for projects beyond just kind of at a whim saying, let's do this because we think we should.
When is the last time we had one done?
We have not had one done.
I thought when they had the bond proposals that there was a...
There was, but I don't know if it was...
It was a partial.
Comprehensive.
Yeah, it was a partial, and it was specific to a couple facilities, primarily the high school.
Okay.
So this would be district-wide. They would even provide, into the study would be our athletic fields, it would be our athletic facilities, it would include the Cage Field House, and possible suggestions for how that property and that facility could be utilized to its maximum efficiency. So these are people who are experts that work with school districts in doing this, and as I said, it's about a 600-hour project, and they have a multitude of engineers and people that work on it. So, but it would give us as leaders of the district a lot of objective information, so that when we start talking about, you know, what are the true needs and being able to prioritize those out versus, you know, just kind of going at a whim or shooting from the hip, so to speak.
Does anyone in the district work with them other than you?
I will be the primary point of contact. We will have different people at different times. So, for example, if when they're looking at the maintenance building, you know, Mr. Chapman's going to be there. If they're looking at the high school, Mr. Kitchen would be available to, you know, walk them through, give them access. So the number of people that are involved in this project is extensive, and so it would impact many of our administrators.
Okay, other than showing them around, how much input do they have in the process?
Almost none. And that's by design, because it needs, we don't have that expertise, and it would, when we go to the community to say these are some needs we have, or when we go to us as a board and say these are things we need to do or in building and site, we need to be operating not from what Ben Micah thinks, but from what experts in this field are showing us. You know?
I agree.
And so I think that's kind of the, you know, the point of why we won't have input into, well, we think you should do this or that. That's their specialty.
So that at the end of the engagement, we would have a prioritized list that they would recommend?
They will not only provide a prioritized list, if they were to recommend, say, for example, one of the suggestions might be at the high school, the entryway, you might have a low-cost way to make a sally port or something that is more safe. They would actually provide us with a rendering, a drawing of what that would look like and a projected budget and cost for that project. They would do that for a number of suggested things, and just the fact that we're going to be getting all of our updated maps of the buildings with room numbers and everything, and a detailed description of every room. They'll throw in another piece that I didn't mention is classroom furniture. You know, at our middle school, some of that furniture is 40, 50 years old. And so at the end of the day, they're going to be able to say, they work with a furniture company, and they would say, here are some suggestions. We don't have to purchase any of those things, but it gives us an objective list of things that we could look at.
Okay, which then brings up my question. Do these people that are like the furniture company, are they paid by the company that's doing the...
No, we would pay the company that specializes in this, and that package price covers all of those other companies are working for the architecture firm that's doing the study. So we don't contract directly with them at all.
When they look at need, do they also look at the comfort of the staff, the staff and the students, for instance, air conditioning?
Air conditioning will absolutely be a part of this. You know, again, whether or not we are able to afford it or do it, you know, that's a second conversation. But yes, they will look at those things as well.
Do they look at things like energy cost and use, and maybe even rebates that are out there that, you know, it's, if we go to LED, it's going to save us maybe 70%, but consumers will rebate us back another 70% of those costs?
Yes, they will do that, and they will also share with you what the cost would be to make the transition or conversion to LED, which you might weigh out and say, that's too expensive for us to do that, but you would at least know, but the long-term savings would be this.
Yeah, the return on investment.
Correct.
Do they look at the community at all and kind of survey the community on incomes and demographics and, you know, what does this community really want? What do they...
So that would be more of a, and we're not talking about this right now, but if you were to go into seriously consider looking at a bond project, that would be where you would start to survey community, find out what the community needs are, what their wants are. This is not that. This is to give us objective information about our existing facilities. Yeah. A good question.
So what are the next steps?
Well, the next, I mean, provided there are no objections, this is a service. It's something that we would have them do throughout the summer. And then in the fall, we would be able to start looking at this report. We would be able to start looking at the data and say, okay, Whether you would want to say, let's do a special meeting where everybody comes, whether you'd want it to go to building and site and then get a report, I would think it would be good to have the whole board engaged in it because it's going to be an extensive report. But we could talk about what your wishes would be for that.
Are you making a recommendation on the third party? Who it would be?
As far as the firm? Yeah, there is a company called NJB Architects. They're a company out of Flushing, and they've worked with a number of schools across the state of Michigan. They're probably the most legitimate local firm that does this type of work. I have also worked with Barton Mallow, which is a very large firm that does big construction projects out of Oakland County and Lansing. What I will say is that NJB, from the people that I've talked to, they do a much more personalized touch. I think they actually spend time walking into the buildings. They bring their people out and they do that, whereas some of the bigger firms are a little, maybe a little more impersonal. But not that they do a bad job, I'm not saying anything that, but this is a company that we've asked for, what the scope of their project is, and so, yeah. So I mean, I would like to move forward, provided there's any major objections.
Are they pretty comparable in price?
Yes, they're all very comparable in price. When you start looking at a service like this, you can get a lot of variance because it's different than like in Elms Road where you're buying equipment. Some people value their service higher than others, and so in this particular case, though, they were pretty close. In studies that I've done in other districts, although they've been slightly larger than Swartz Creek, the number has been upwards of $75,000. So the 40 to 45 was a good target number. So it is an investment, but the investment is that we're getting the information that we need to make sound decisions, and I believe likely would pay for itself by the time you start looking at efficiencies and things like that.
And would help us in creating a building and site strategic plan that I think we are needing.
We seem to need a little bit of strategic planning in that area for the purpose of obviously moving us in a direction where and our people are doing a good job of keeping our facilities up to speed, but quite frankly we need to be thinking 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road and not just reacting. So
do we need a motion on this, or is it?
Nope, it's a service. If you had conversation that you wanted to have beyond that, let me know. I'm happy to meet with any of you, talk with any of you about it. It would be something that would occur in the summer months, and I've given you kind of the whole scope of it, but I'm happy to talk with you further about it if you'd like. Any other questions on that?
Great idea.
I think we need it. I do too.
Well, it will be a help. We're looking at that. So we did have an item that was moved from the consent agenda, which was the depository banks for school funds. Mr. Ahern had a conversation with me before the board meeting about that. You want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. We're being asked tonight to approve Chase Bank to serve as our checking and savings accounts depository, which I don't have a problem with. What I do have a problem with is the second part of this, and that's that the business office is authorized to deposit school, district revenue, and other Michigan depositories for investment purposes only pursuant to board policy, and that loans and investments be awarded on competitive bids or quotations. I don't have a problem with that. But if you go back to the last audit and you look under the notes to financial statements, they talk about credit risk. And state statute authorizes the school district to make deposits in the accounts of federally insured banks, credit unions, savings and loan associations that have offices in Michigan. The school district is allowed to invest in U.S. Treasury, agency obligations, U.S. government repurchase agreements, bankers acceptances, commercial paper, prime at the time of purchase, not more than 170 days. And then investment pools that are composed of authorized investment vehicle. And then it states the district has no investment policy that would further limit its investment choices. That's one policy. The next is concentration of credit risk. The school district has no policy that would limit the amount that may be invested with one issuer. And this is the most important, and this is the one that will stand out. Custodial credit deposits. In the case of deposits, this is a risk that in the event of a bank failure, the school district's deposits may not be returned to it. The school district does not have a deposit policy for custodial credit risk. As of year end, $5,673,000 of the district's bank balance of $6,195,000 was exposed to custodial credit risk because it was uninsured and uncollateralized. My question is, do we still have investments that are uninsured? And if we do, why? I've looked up the policy and it looks like part of what they're saying isn't really correct. It does speak about having to be federally insured. I don't know where that money is, and I don't know if the people that have it, if they're insured or not, but I'd sure like to find out if we're still at risk. And why did we put $5.5 million into something that the policy says we can't do?
Just to thank you, Michael. Just trying to address some of your questions or comments there. One is, the Chase Bank is the approved, authorized institution that we have worked with over a number of years, and so this is an annual, authorization for 17-18. But so to answer the first question, all the money is with Chase Bank's one entity, and that's where that note in the financial statements comes from. I looked at a couple of our past audits, and I also looked at a handful of other ones of other districts. I'm not belittling it is a concern comment there. That's a concern of mine, but I think a lot of districts have that same concern, and I'm going to contact the auditors and see the true risk that they're stating there, and secondary, what other options we may have. It's a matter of diversifying, or if we can invest, but we have to be careful on, just like you said, it has Treasury. We can invest in Treasury, U.S. Treasury. We can invest in certain commercial paper that's at a plus rating, and I know that, but it's a matter of sometimes it's a matter of cash flow too. Is once we tie up the money, so that I'm going to check with the auditors, see what that note specifically is speaking to. I think it's specifically speaking to the FDIC insurance for like a Chase Bank. They have limits on each account which they will federally insure, and that's where that note in the audit report is coming from. But that doesn't mean we can address that note and see if we can improve the district's risk assessment in that area. And I think that would be diversifying more, whether it be with different institutions or different investments, and just to reduce our depository risk. So I am going to follow up on it.
Yeah, so my recommendation is based on the concern with that part of the action report for this next board meeting will be that you and I are going to get together and we're going to sit with the auditor and find out what that means.
Yes.
And I think we should do that before we're asking them to approve the accounts, and that's not going to put us at risk. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So my recommendation would be to leave that as just simply a discussion item, and then we'll have that answer for you before our next meeting, so that we can make that decision informed. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, John.
Okay, moving on, we have board action items. Approval of the SCEA employment.
So I have this evening, after much awaited time, we have 2 new employees that I'd like to introduce to the staff. First, we have Mr. Stanley Page, who is going to be our new high school social worker. And I believe this Beyonce is this one, so welcome. We're glad to have you here. I'll let Derek take it. Do you want to talk? And then we
Sure.
have Ash. I'll let you, do you want to do one by one?
I'll go one at a time.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
All right.
Teamwork.
First, Stan. Stan Page is here. Stan has just finished up his master's degree from Wayne State University. We had the pleasure of having Stan work in our district pretty much all year as an intern. Stan was a candidate we interviewed. There was a pool of people. We interviewed 6, I believe, candidates for Stan's position. Stan was the #1 choice of all of the interview team that's listed below there. Stan's reputation, Stan's ability to work with kids was monitored not only by Mr. T, also myself, Mrs. Moore, one of our social workers, and Stan did a fabulous job working all year long as an intern. He was by far the #1 choice of our interview team. Had 17 years of experience. He's just a great knowledge that we're going to look at putting him into the high school, working with a bunch of transition with youth and young adults. So his expertise is great, his knowledge is great, and we're very excited to have him. In his strategies, I got to witness him in many of our different MTSS meetings. Even volunteered his time after his internship was over. So I think his heart and his dedication to Swartz Creek is very evident, and he's excited to be here as much as we are to have him here. So I'd like to introduce Stan Page.
Well, I'm very excited, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to even have the opportunity to come to Swartz Creek as a social worker, especially as when I came into the academy a year and a half ago, I had no intentions on being a school social worker. I was just out doing my daytime job of doing youth outreach, and I met with this guy that likes to be called quirky, and asked me why don't I come to the academy and do my internship. As he said, I've been working with youth and families for all of my adult life, starting as a parapro, working with juvenile delinquents coming home from lockup, much as being a single male foster parent, the adolescent age males that no one else wanted to take, as well as having a son of my own that graduated #2 in his class from Hamby High School, graduated from Kettering University, and now is an engineer for General Motors. So my motivation is trying to help young people to identify and have a voice for themselves, and hopefully I'll be a good fit for Swartz Creek. And if not, I'm quite sure that you folks with those red badges in front of your name. So that's it. Thank you.
Welcome.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So your position is full-time at the high school?
Yes, ma'am.
Only at the high school?
According to my future bosses.
Okay. Welcome aboard.
Fairly spoken.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ashley Booza.
Before we do that, before we introduce Ashley, should we move forward?
Well, I'll let you do what you need to do.
Yeah, let's, we definitely want to introduce Ashley, but.
I bet if you come and introduce everyone, you'll get a chance to meet everyone and get to know who they are. So I know you.
Yeah. We'll do it separately. So. Just shake everybody's hand.
You go around the donut.
Yeah, go around the middle.
Congratulations.
This candidate.
He's here though. Yeah, he's here.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to
So I would entertain a motion in order to make it official to act on the hiring of Mr. Page.
So moved.
Support.
Stacy, Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Stan.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much. All right.
The next candidate I'd like to introduce is Mrs. Ashley Bluza. Ashley just received her master's degree from Michigan State University. Just for those, she was also an intern that worked all year long. And Ashley, I got to witness Ashley on a much more personal level, working right across the hallway in the early childhood classroom from my office. So I got to see her on a regular basis. Speech therapy is one of the hardest positions to find of all special ed positions. We had a great pool of candidates that were selected to interview. And again, Ashley rose above everybody else on the interview committee. I know Mr. Heatherton was personally very excited as well. Looking at Ashley's experiences with her RTI, her teaching background, it was amazing. So with all of that said, she, again, threw a bunch of different questions at her. Her RTI experience fits right in with our methodology and what we're doing here within Swartz Creek. She spent all of her 6 months as an intern working with Tina Dean. So she got not only the middle school experience, she also had the early childhood experience. She will be working right within the early childhood and then also Cyrene as the two locations that we're looking at having her work out of. Connie has worked with her and spent time with her as well. So again, I would like to introduce and recommend that you take Mrs. Bluza and move her on to the next level and make her part of the Swartz Creek family. And she's a wonderful addition who puts her heart and soul into everything that she does.
How many were interviewed here?
We had 11 initially. We ended up interviewing 5. We were going to interview 7. 2 had already taken jobs by the time we called. So it goes pretty quick.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for this opportunity and consideration. I'm fairly new to Swartz Creek. We moved here about 2 years ago. I'm married. Celebrated 6 years on Saturday. And I have 2 dogs who are admittedly spoiled. But one thing that I can't say enough about Swartz Creek is the sense of community. We've been here, like I said, almost 2 years now, and I brag to all my family and friends back home, you need to move here. I really appreciate, again, this opportunity, and from working within the district and all the great staff members, I've got to know the students, the parents, and I'm just blown away by what's going on here, and I really want to bring my enthusiasm and my passion to the district, and like Derek said, build on MTSS, and with my knowledge in speech and language as well as teaching. My philosophy is being student-centered, focusing on the students' needs. I believe in evidence-based practice, so I do a lot of my research, and just being a fresh grad, I have the most up-to-date knowledge. And then just also an open line of communication. I believe in collaboration, and that's really important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ashley?
Yes. So the K through 5 is with all of our 5 buildings?
Just Cyrene. Yes, I will be at Cyrene and then the childhood. So.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Why don't you come around the middle this time?
Come around the middle. Ashley, go down the middle.
Oh, yeah, Thank you.
She wanted the hogs.
No, Eastern Michigan.
Oh, okay. My daughter went to Michigan State, so she was
Wonderful. What'd she go for?
SLP.
Ashley? Ashley, what kind of dogs do you have?
2 black labs. So if you run into me, all right. I will show pictures all the time. They're my babies. Congratulations. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Great, thank you.
So I would like to entertain a motion that we include Ashley on our wonderful staff.
So moved. Support.
Brian, Mike, any comments or questions? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Ashley. Thank you. If you would like to depart, you may, or you can stay.
They're not ready.
They're ready.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good
Nice
luck.
to meet you.
Take care.
Okay, we have a geometry package.
This is the package that was presented last board meeting. We're needing to make those purchases for the geometry textbooks at the high school.
Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Support Ken, Stacy, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I think we're up to the Elms Road kitchen renovation.
So as requested, I asked Mr. Chapman for a total cost package that would not be exceeded for this project. We do have official quotes on electrical, alarm, as well as any other costs associated with the project. And then, of course, Stafford Smith for the equipment itself. The electric quote is a quote that we will go off of. It will likely be less than that $20,000, but I said we need to make sure we come in under the budget, so let's make sure it's a not to exceed number, as we kind of talked about our last time. So that total cost is $115,222, and that is coming out of the cafeteria fund to pay down our fund balance as required by the state.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Stacy, Brian, any comments or questions?
I do have some comments and questions. I'd like to know, we don't have anything here on plumbing. In our minutes of the meeting that we already approved from the last meeting, it said we talked about the ventilation, the electronics, the plumbing, demolition. We don't have any of that. We just have the bid, which includes the architects, Stafford Smith, and then Shiflett Electric.
My understanding is that this is the total cost of the project, that this includes everything that would be necessary. So any type of plumbing that would be necessary would be done, in-house, and it would be at a minimal cost. So that would mean that we're not having to hire that out. Additionally, there is no demolition. From what I'm being told, this 115 is the whole package, signed, sealed, and delivered.
We don't even have anything built in case they do go over. The total, the pay right there is the total not to exceed. So if they were by chance to go over something.
Well, that's part of what we need to do, is to keep them on track for that. That's why the electric budget, the electric quote is likely high to account for any unforeseen issues that they get into when they get into the electric that's existing. But
Do we have a copy of the quote?
yes.
There's individual quotes by vendor, and then there's a total. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm really concerned that we only have the one company. Even if nobody else bid out, seems to me could have at least searched out and received another bid.
On what particular hearing?
On the whole project, we don't have anything from anybody else. We just have one. You have two bids, but it's the same company.
I think that's all the responded, am I right?
On Stafford Smith, that's
They're
all
the only ones that responded
We
to
did
the-
put that out, yeah, but the architects, that's the, and Shiflett Electric, that's separate from the equipment.
One thing that I can maybe explain too on this, where is this money allocated and where does it come from? So cafeteria fund money is not general fund or tax dollars. These dollars are monies that come from a food service program when, for example, I send my child to lunch and I pay for food and the food is purchased at a lower cost. The idea and the reason why we can't have a fund balance there is because it's not general fund dollars. And so the state does not want school districts to be running surpluses with food money that are essentially saying, well, we're going to turn our food service department into a money-making for-profit entity, which is why we have to spend this money down. And this money is, there actually isn't a correlation to the general fund. It's a completely separate pot, which comes from literally a profit in the food service. So what we have to do is we have to go back and see, do we need to adjust our lunch prices down? Do we need to make sure we're providing, all of the things that we can? But this money is different than the typical general fund dollars or any offsets from that.
I realize that, but our job as a board member is to be a watchdog for the money. And
true. I can find out, and I've been told, I asked for a complete package, and what I was told was that this is the total cost. It will not exceed that number. So, I mean, we can move forward in a different direction if you want. I'm not sure I understand.
well, the bus wash was a big fiasco, and we approved that, and then we had to keep coming back. Well, if they're already into the project, you're not going to say, no, you can't have any more money. I mean, they've already spent what was approved, and then we go over another $75,000.
Correct.
And a homeowner knows that a kitchen is one of your biggest, costliest renovations, and I don't think this is a complete package.
Well, let me say this. I will personally say that I will do my every effort to make sure that that cost stays below that 115, and if it doesn't, then we'll radically change how we do it in the future.
How about if we say, if it goes over that, it comes out of Mr. Chapman's pocket?
I'm not sure we can say that, but
What I would like to see in the future is when we get projects like this, I think he has a duty to this board, and I would think I'm only one vote here, but I think if any of you disagree with me, shame on you. I want to see how this project is brought about, from if there's any demolition, who's doing it, what if we run into asbestos, what about plumbing? That's the very problem we had at the barn. Nobody took the time to find out that the law had changed and the drainage had to be changed over there. Nobody took the time to see that whatever the panel was in that barn or that garage wasn't going to operate something that was heavily operated by electronics. I would think those were common sense things to do, but they weren't done. That went 40% over budget. It was budgeted at $99,000. It cost $139,000. That's not even close to being acceptable. If someone did that work at your house and went 40% over budget, you'd lose your mind. But being that none of us are paying for it, it comes out of taxpayers' money. We sit here as a board, and everyone goes, oh, it went 40% over budget. Okay, next project. It's exactly what we're looking at now. When he brings the next project to us, if it's not blow by blow by blow, how it's going to be done, who's going to do it, what they said it's going to cost, don't bring it. Okay. Because I mean, to me, I will do everything in my power to embarrass everyone that is involved in it. That's not how you would do it at your house. If you were doing it this your house, you would have a contractor. Yes, I'm going to remove your old cabinets and everything. We don't know who's doing what. And I mean, it's what this was spelled out 2 weeks ago, and what Bill put together here is no different. He added an electrical bill to it. He didn't add one other thing.
So we have.
He capped. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But he capped a number. He added an electrical amount, and that's all he did. If you look at that number, he went from $85,000. He added 20, so that gets him at $105. So somewhere there's $10,000 to play with. You wouldn't sign that agreement if someone was doing this at your house. But yet everyone's here chomping at the bit to want to do it and get it going. All I'm asking is for someone to do their job right. It was made perfectly clear 2 weeks ago what we were looking for. It's not there. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and try to hold up money and make John jump through more hoops, but I mean, I don't know, and you weren't here for the bus wash, and I hate to keep harping on the same thing. That was something that he was in charge of. It's something that he brought to this board. It's not acceptable. And when it was made perfectly clear 2 weeks ago, what we were looking for is this company doing the tear out, and that's part of that $84,000? Someone tell me that. Is the plumbing included in that $84,000? Tell me that. And I can walk away and go, okay, great.
So John, I know you had to file an extension, or will have to.
Yeah, I'm in communication with the state on that. Yes.
So are you comfortable at this point that these dollars would not exceed what you asked for in the extension?
I think the state will be fine with this process, this part of it. Yeah, so yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
I'm sitting here, I'll tell you right now, I'll vote yes. I'm not gonna hold this up. But this is what we historically do here. And it's old. And there's new leadership here at the district, being you, and I think it's time that you get him to go, hey, this is what everyone's doing. We don't know that.
Could I suggest that through our building and site process, that we create a process, maybe a form that's completed that would then
Itemize every
identify
single
each
step.
of those areas if it's applicable, and then Ken, I think you would have your questions answered.
And that would be appreciative, but I would think we hired someone and we're paying them pretty good money to do this job. I would like to think, again, Carrie, I'll beat the same dead horse. None of us would have a contractor come to our home and hand us something like this. And if you would, you're crazy.
Can I just bring this up? I know we talked about demolition, and I don't know if you're the word removal only. It talks about this company, Stafford Smith. The price here for $84,000 is for the equipment, it's for the install, and it's for the removal.
Correct, but my knowledge is there's no demolition, which is why I would ask for a complete package with quotes, and so that's what those three come.
And yeah, and I don't know if removal is part of that demolition or not. I
So
don't
they're
know.
removing the current
They're
equipment?
removing the
I mean,
current.
they're providing the equipment, they're providing the install, and they're providing the removal.
Correct.
Is that demolition? I don't know.
But I'm hearing the conversation, so at our building and site meetings and also in future projects, we'll get something that's more itemized. We'll put together a package that will be, hopefully more acceptable.
And not have it brought to the board at the last minute. And John, just to make note, I know none of this is your fault. They keep referring to you, but you're not the one that's responsible for the bids and the drawing, and so thank you for getting it to us, but I know it's not your job.
Okay, so I think we had a motion.
We did.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, and the last item on our agenda is the MHSAA membership, which was taken from our consent agenda. Okay, so do you want to go over that then?
Sure. So Mrs. Ahern had some questions that she wanted to ask. This is our yearly membership resolution. You'll see it in your board packet that we are a part of the MHSAA, our middle school as well, and so there's some information there. But I know Mrs. Ahern had a couple questions.
I do. And the page that talks about the new concussion medical insurance.
It's just a phone.
I'm just curious, are all of our athletes, our student athletes, covered by this kind of insurance, or is it only strictly in the event of concussions?
Strictly in the event of a concussion. This is something new that the MHSAA has. So what we're doing is anytime that we have a concussion, whether it's at the high school or the middle school, our trainer has to, they have to put it online with the MHSAA that this concussion happened, so there is a record. And then there is, I believe, Lorraine, in that form on the back, there is an address and phone number that parents can contact this insurance company. But if, for example, a kid falls and breaks a leg, does that cover that? No. It's just in the event of a concussion.
Okay, and so it just covers the medical part of it?
Yes, I think, yeah, that's my understanding. This is just something that the MHSAA has done and is offering to families. This isn't anything that our school district has to pay for.
Right.
So.
Right. Is there a follow-through with it? I mean, like the students, is it, do we have an accountability if we know how many students we have?
Absolutely,
And
absolutely we
then
do.
how many follow through with?
Absolutely. What we have, in addition to us putting that information in with the MHSAA, we have software where my trainer, even when she gives a bag of ice to a kid, it's documented. So everything that our trainer does with our athletes is documented.
And with right in the back of my handbook and on our websites both, we have the return to activity and post-concussion form. This goes to the doctor and then comes back to us, which then we get to meet in our athletic trainer. She has to document all of that stuff online with the MHSAA, and then there's a spot where soon I have to approve it also.
And Lorraine, the other thing too that we're pretty proud of is that prior to the MHSAA starting all this concussion protocol, we've been doing this probably a good 9-10 years prior to the MHSAA even doing this, and the same with the CPR AED certification. I mean, that they just did that, started that mandatory. We've been doing this for years, so we've been very, very proactive when it comes to those type of things.
Okay. So did they raise our rates?
Pardon?
Did they raise our rates because of this?
No, we don't pay. We do not pay anything to the MHSAA. We're a member school, but it's free.
So that parents know that if they have an unpaid deductible or copayment,
yes,
they can submit it to the claim administrator.
That's all in that information. Okay. So when a young man or young lady, we have the form right here, and the trainer has it. They get a concussion, they're handed that form. But this form is new from the MHSAA. Did they have this form 5 years ago? No. So this is just something new.
Also new is that all of our coaches and even our teachers have to go through mandatory concussion training.
Yes. Yeah. And Ben, if I can, one of the things that we've been very proactive is when we do have our coaches trainings, because we've been doing this for years, we always try to include our teachers, and we've tried to do it by floor, so we know that we've got so many up on the second floor, so many in the 500 wing, so we have been very proactive about training our teachers also, and now it is something that will be mandated. So,
any other questions for Sue or Melissa?
If we have a student that is suspended, are they allowed to practice? They're not allowed to practice with their team, are they?
No.
Okay.
Anything else? I need a motion to approve.
Support.
Stacy, Tony, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think that takes us to our board action items, and this brings us to public comments. If you'd like to address the board, please stand, state your name, and try to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less.
Hello, my name is Constance Lake Nethercutt. I live at 1614 Woodlawn Park Drive in Flint, Michigan. For 37 years, I have been a speech language pathologist, and 24 years been spent in this district. I graduated with my bachelor's and my master's from Michigan State University, and I mention that only because when I went through grad school, I went through on a full scholarship, or actually it was a fellowship, and it provided me with a large stipend. This stipend I used to build a house. that means that my two children attended Siren Elementary and the middle school and received rock-solid educations. And in 1993, I began in Swartz Creek as a speech-language pathologist. During the course of those years, I have had the great good privilege to serve with other teachers who are spectacular, people who brought a band program from nothing to something, to have my 7th grade daughter learn how to play jazz trombone and practice it. And to have my son, who is an athlete, or was an athlete, he still is, but he was an all-state athlete, and to fall in love with poetry, thanks to Wayne Hope. I have had amazing experiences and opportunities for the last 24 years, and I want to thank you. Today is my last day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your service. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
I would just like to say congratulations and good luck in your retirement. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
time.
People keep asking, what am I going to do? I'm going to take my time.
Well, enjoy.
Good idea. Jim Thompson, 8196 Miller. And I'd like to say thank you very much to our superintendent and all the board members and staff. Your dedication to the kids in Swartz Creek is outstanding. Sitting through all the graduations, providing open houses for those that are indigent. And I'd like to say, and parlay with Ms. Nethercutt, that I retired a second time from this school district, and all 6 of our children graduated from this district, and they're outstanding citizens, all have good jobs, and the young lady, you got to be proud of this young lady, Ashley, taking over the speech therapy at Cyrene. And what she said hit me in the heart. She said, this is a great community, and I'm encouraging all my family to come and live here. And we have a great community. Really, the mainstay of this community is our school district. Yep. And you are the administrators and the board that make it click. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Moving on. Comments and questions from the board. Any? None? Thank you, Melissa and Sue, for presenting to us this evening. Thank you again, Tom. Oh, and Mr. Thompson, you're out of view, sorry, but not out of mind. Connie, thank you again. Congratulations. Good luck in whatever it is you choose in the future. And hearing no comments or questions, we are adjourned.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. We have gotten lots of furniture. Yes, now he has a store. Okay, but I mean, he has things that are made locally, so they are, you know, they don't, but he also has things that are when we first started going to him, he had the gas line, and he's an old order, gas line, strictly old order. Now he carries this.
Joan, here's your pen back.